Hi, I'm Beezy, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and you're watching Etsy Shop.
It feels to me when we look at your shop that you have two very different niches here. There are going to be crossovers between more of like the fantasy style and this like boho cottagecore. All of the style people are just losing their minds right now listening to me trying to describe this. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
is
got
the
it.
Question. Okay.
Yes, it's that either that what you're trying to describe. I know there's a demand for it. I just need to know what to call it.
All right, so BZ, just so I have it right, let me kind of go through the different things that you submitted when you filled out the form for the Etsy shop audit. So the shop name is Love Imagined Threads. Shop age started in July of 2023. So doing some quick math, that's about 7 months. The niche, I put home decor because you had a bunch of different things that were in home decor, I think, but we're going to cover that. We're going to go into that. So I just kind of went into home decor. That's kind of how I saw it from what you wrote in. Sticking point, pivoting, I kind of narrowed it down to that, where you kind of wanted to know some direction, like where should we go? We're in the middle of a pivot. Total revenue, $365.57. At least that's what it was the time that you submitted this. And your income goal is $100,000 in 2024 net, and $400 per day would be a great goal. Does that sound all about accurate?
It is about accurate, although things move so fast with the work I've been putting in that, it's gotten more focused since then. But yeah, that's a good.
Okay, cool. All right. And is the total revenue still the same, or have you added any more sales?
I think that's about right. Haven't had any more sales, but I actually have been. I did the 1-2-3 pod live, and from there I started to, put in the things that you were talking about, and we're starting the pivoting. And so I cut I think I had 118 or more listings, cut that by probably 60% anyways. And now, so that's gone way down and it's starting to slowly go up with the refocusing. So I'm not actually too worried that there haven't been sales. It was the end of fourth quarter and all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing a lot of research for validating actual product selling and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And originally, I know you'd asked one of the other ones that we've done today, what was I originally doing? Originally, I've had businesses before, never had an Etsy shop, but I have had websites and all that kind of stuff. And I made the mistake of just following supposedly good advice, but I think it's now in the Etsy ecosystem outdated advice. They may have been top $1 million sellers before, but it wasn't changing. And the way Etsy works, if you already, have that, I forget what it's called, but basically the Etsy love of being up in the shop score and all that kind of stuff, you already, unless you do something like a restriction, you don't get kicked out of those spots. You can keep adding to it.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, okay. So let's kind of talk about like where we're at right now. So the niche, like when you wrote a lot in there. That's why I couldn't include that all in there. And I appreciate that because you were kind of filling me in on all of the things that you have been doing. But what would you say right now, if you could, say what is the niche that you are focusing on as of right this second?
Well, what I look at it just again, when I'm looking at keywords where people are actually searching and looking at the customer that I'm serving. That's the main thing I'm looking is the customer I'm serving. And then the keywords, the way Etsy works, focuses on a certain way people call it. So I have to kind of shoehorn them together. So I look at it, the brand, which is inspired conscious living, because that's what the people are all about. That's what they're interested in. That's what turns them on. The niche is eclectic home decor and gifts. And then I create, as I said, that around my the persona of the customers and what they're going through in their life, what's interesting to them.
Okay. All right, Chris, why don't we bring up the shop if you have it handy, and then we can dig in and we can get to work here.
Yeah, and it's all, it's kind of mid-change. Some things are old stuff and some things are new stuff. Like a lot of that is from your first set of Backstage Pass Live. You talked about putting some reviews in the banner if you don't have, so.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look. So if we're looking at, like, if I'm looking at this right now, and again, I'm trying to kind of go through it as if I was someone that came here and I didn't know what you were about or what your shop was about. So I'm trying to, again, come in at it like if I was walking down the street and I saw this as your billboard, or as your brick and mortar, like what would I think it was? Hey, real quick, I wanted to give you a little behind the scenes on how these Etsy shop audits even happen. Every single month, Chris Schaefer and I, we meet and we batch record 3 to 4 of these episodes. Then they get edited and they get posted like the one you're watching right now. But what we decided to do is create what we call our Backstage Pass Club. This is where all of our club members, they get to join us on that recording as we're doing it live. The other cool thing is you're able to ask questions and you also can get access to the recordings before they ever air, immediately, raw and unedited. You even get all the questions that were asked that you might have missed because, well, maybe you couldn't attend that one live. So if you'd like to be part of our Backstage Pass Club and join our next batch recording session, head on over to brandcreators.com/club or click the link in the description. Now, let's get back to the audit, because that's kind of how I look at it. Now, if you have products that are getting demand and they're bringing people in your shop, they already know what you're about, right? So, and Chris, I mean, I'd like to know your first impression as like coming here, Eclectic, room decor, okay. So I guess what does that mean as far as like what products are we leading with? And we talked about this. Go ahead.
Eclectic room decor is described, and again, in all the research, it's the grown-up version of boho. So it does include boho, but it's more, again, it goes to the customer of what they're looking for. They're looking for specific kind of style, and that's specific to them, but that's where it's eclectic. So they don't have to have all just goth. They may have goth decor, they may have nature inspired, but the thread overall is was that, because I started with, I guess it was I forgot Scott's Chris's word for it, but spaghetti at the wall,
yeah,
kind of thing, and
yep.
T-shirts, because that was, quote unquote, the way to do it. And then I had a pivot of my own before I found you guys to focus on. Was I thought, well, this is nuts. It's not working. Clearly, I need to stick with what I know about business and put that in here and do an intuitive change. So I did that, and I saw a bunch of stuff change, not dramatically, but for me, since it was nothing, it was dramatic. And then when I found you guys and I did the 1, 2, 3 pod, and then I've shifted that, there has been changes. So everything has been a change in the positive. It's taking way longer than I'd like, but it's going in the right direction.
Okay. So Chris, what are you thinking here?
So the concern that I have with this, and I would have to do some keyword research, again, not a like home design person by any stretch of the imagination, obviously. Is somebody who's open to having an eclectic design style, is that what they are searching for? Or are they searching for fantasy room decor? Are they searching for, I would call this probably cottagecore, right? Are they searching for that design style? And then if they find something that happens to have a goth influence or a postmodern art piece that they really like, they're not afraid to include that. So that would be the question in my mind, because coming to this shop, I don't quite know what it is that you sell. When I first start scrolling through this, I immediately know, right? I go, okay, this is cottagecore, or this is, like country, good feeling type stuff, right? Like looking at the banner, I'm like, all right, so this is like a Western cottagecore type of thing. And the first few listings give me that feeling. And then as I scroll through here, I start to see more of like the fantasy style, right? And so the thing that pops into my head is, what are people searching for? Is eclectic the style choice that they're typing in? Does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, I guess an easier way to do this, I think, to identify like where we're going is for you, BZ, is like, what products have you validated that are getting sales and traffic? Like, out of your products right now, what would you say that you've done the research on that you know are getting sales, they're getting traffic? Let's start there.
If I were going to go with your top 5, would be blankets, customized journals, pillows, jigsaw puzzles, which I have a bunch already designed, but I haven't loaded them up yet, and table runners, I think they're called. So that's just some of them, but they all go together because the customer that from researching, it's hard because I'm looking at the customer, so I'm seeing what customers are out there, what they're buying, and then how they call it of my style that I can be creative about to do.
Oh, okay. Okay. But I don't want to cut you off, but I want to interject just because, okay, so pillows, blankets, those are products that might be selling in the wedding niche or the, boho niche, right? Where is the one that you found in a niche? Like, the blanket isn't the niche, the blanket is the product. It's what we put on.
Yeah, you asked what products have I validated that are selling that are in niches that what I'm doing.
Okay, so then what I'm asking is like, so then in this here in your store, where's the design on a blanket that you already validated that you know is getting sales and traffic? Is there one?
Well, it's slightly different there. You can see if you scroll up to the top part, the one of the thing is the William Morris style. So things that are more timeless, but with a flair to them. That would be the one in the center there, right? Things that are, again, you could.
Chris, click on that one. The William Morris. Okay. So, and again, I don't know. So that's why I'm asking, like, and if we were in business together, I would ask you, like, okay, so there's a pillow right now that looks similar to this, or that is, like people are buying it with this concept and with this search.
Yes, in the world of decor, William Morris was it's dead for a long time, very famous designer, and he did things that looked handmade. It was in the kind of counter to the Industrial Revolution of being everything mechanized, and so people like that. It's an aesthetic that people like, that it has to do with that. So what those products that I found that are validated, they're all the same design, but the niche within that is people who like that feeling. It may not just be William Morris, right? It may not just, that's why it's eclectic. It may not just be boho, right? So, but people, and I think in the top part of at the top underneath my shop name, it's room decor aesthetic is also very highly searched keyword phrase, and in that it has these same kind of things. So the aesthetic could be cottage core, it could be boho, and it's within that. So what I'm doing, so it's not all over the place, I'm using the niche be what people are searching for that fits with what my customer, that have been attracted to it, fit into. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm still trying to find the find the
room decor is to wedding thing. It's just not decor. Home decor. Home decor is the top niche, then eclectic room decor, eclectic home decor, and then room decor aesthetic.
But I guess what I'm trying to identify is like those, like I understand like you have like those selected, but that product that you just showed us in the shop, like you found that thing, that, search is being sold like every single month, like that type of thing on a pillow.
Yes.
Okay.
And I did searches for shops that are similar in age to mine, 7, 8, 9, 11 months, and ones that have been around for 3, 4, 5 years. And yes.
Okay.
So the concern that I have with this, and this comes back to how we're defining eclectic, is that everybody I know that has an eclectic style has kind of the things that they like, and then they go, oh, that's really cool, I want to put that up. And the stereotype of this are like every restaurant that's ever been on Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives, right? Like you look at the wall decor and they've got everything from everywhere, right? Like the old Red Robin style. There's a little bit of Americana, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The problem with selling all of that stuff in one shop is that stuff doesn't necessarily appeal to everybody who has the eclectic eye. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I scroll through the shop, the feeling that I have is that it's a bunch of different things put together and organized by you. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the way that eclectic normally works is it's just stuff that person likes. And so the concern that I would have with that is that there's not enough of a through line, right, in the products that we have to get people to buy more than one thing. It's not necessarily good, bad, right, or wrong. That's just kind of what I see at a glance. And when I search something like eclectic decor, right, on Etsy, we see that it's kind of all over the place, right? Because people who are searching for this are just looking for that next thing to put up. And you're not always going to be able to give that to them. So they're not necessarily going to come back to you for the next weird, kitschy thing that they're trying to find. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's part of what this that's part of what the struggle has been to, because if someone describes what they like people have come and said, I'm looking for this, could you come up with a design for it, right? And how Etsy searches, if you search outside of Etsy for Etsy, so if you're standing on Google and you search for that, Etsy will show you stuff, but it returns different stuff. That's actually a match to what I'm looking for. But when you're on Etsy, it returns different things. So that's been a little bit of the struggle. And the other thing to your stuff, when you're looking at it, some of the stuff is older version and some of the stuff is newer versions up at the top. So I haven't gotten rid of all of the stuff.
Yeah.
And so
no, I was just going to say, we got a comment in from Shelly in the Backstage Pass Club comments, and basically said, like, what would I search for to find your designs? And that's kind of what I was saying. So so that pillow that you showed us, that first one, so is that what people are searching for, is like that person's name? And then
that, and or nature inspired is another thing that there's, like, again, so what I did was I was trying to look at everything that you guys were talking about and think, how can I do my passion? How can I know what there is a market for? Because I've talked to people that, outside of Etsy and that kind of stuff, and see what they buy. And so I did niche stacking, right? So that they're things that go together. So the customer is someone who is into their own self-discovery. They're not following everybody else's trends, chasing trends, but they're doing it because what they like. What do they want in their home? They want to have, be nature inspired. They have pets and they want to change their work style so that they can go, and for example, like with you, Scott, go and do the volleyball games, do those different things. And so they're not doing the rat race kind of thing. And so the niche stacking was to look at, and I narrowed those down. So nature inspired, not necessarily Christian, but a spiritual base, which can be both, depending on how you're looking at it. And again, the things that are timeless, designs are timeless, as in William Morris, but can be other things, fairy tales or those kinds of things. And they go together. And so if you're someone who has a home and you want nice things, but you also want to have organic things, organic in the sense that they're good quality, that you can get the best customer service and those kinds of things.
Yeah. I guess I'm still just trying to establish like the product line, right? Like I'm trying to establish, I get what you're saying. I almost feel like years ago, there was a store called Wits End, and it was in upstate New York, and it was huge. And my mother used to love going in there. And it was similar to this, right? You'd walk in and she just went in because there was neat stuff, right? Like it was that style, it was cool stuff and different and knick-knacky, but yet they'd have tote bags and they'd have pillows and they'd have candles and they'd have all that stuff. But there was no like, she wasn't going in there like David's Bridal, right? David's Bridal were going in there for one mission, right? Yeah, there's Wits End. Haven't been there in years, man. My sister and my mother, they dragged me in there and I'd go there for hours and I'd be so upset. I'd be like, can we just go home? I just want to go home and play my guitar. But yeah, so that's what I'm feeling here. And again, I mean, BZ, you know, we said we're going to be honest. Like I'm just struggling to find a product line, right? Like I walk in and I'm like, oh, I'm going to, shop for the bass fisherman, right? And I'm like, oh, here's this. And then there's a mug and then there's an apron for when they cook. And then there's like, and it all ties together so nicely. This feels a little bit still like I understand what you're saying. Like home decor is so wide and broad, and then you can sub niche and stack and all that stuff. But I just don't feel like there's cohesiveness to where, and Chris, I mean, unless you see another line, I'm trying to see a direct line of sight. Is what I'm trying to
and
do.
that I think is the thing. And I'm struggling to explain this because I don't want to say what I'm about to say. Eclectic is random. Right. And people can have an eclectic style. Shops should not have an eclectic style. Shops should have a theme. Right. When somebody, and I'm thinking of somebody who you remind me of a lot, Scott, you know her, Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like Angel would go, that's really cool. That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm going to put all these things up in my house. But if she walked into your shop and you were like, here's all of the things I think are really cool, she might buy one thing, right? But she's going to browse around all day somewhere like Wits End and find 25 things that are all her. They're all 100% her. That in my mind is eclectic style. And the problem with trying to make that the through line in your shop is that she might find one thing that she really likes, but the other things there are not necessarily exactly what she's looking for. She's looking for a weird old license plate, right? You're not going to have that. And so what I would like to see is you taking some of the things that you have in common, and rather than appealing to or saying that you are eclectic and using that as a justification to include other things that wouldn't necessarily appeal to the same people, try to figure out a little bit more of a creative way. So what I'm seeing here and what I'm hearing from you, BZ, and feel free to jump in and cut me off and correct me if I'm wrong, is there's a few things that you are really passionate about. I haven't heard you talk about pugs, although you may make a sale here once we get off. If you have a Pug Dad sweatshirt, Mr. Volker may buy one, even though Brody is a puggle. But if we take a look at this, the nature-inspired thing, you've said that several times. And so while you may not want to constrain yourself to cottage core, right, which is kind of that design style, or like English garden, right, a lot of your stuff does have that look and feel. And it feels like there are two very different shops here. The first is a like cottage core, nature-inspired, that kind of a thing. And if that's what I'm looking for, I would very easily come in here, not on this page, but on the first page, and have 4 or 5 things. The Raven pillow, right? The William Morris stuff. The floral pillow, William Morris, yet again, right? Yes, that's like his interpretation, but that really falls into like the cottage core, English cottage style type of a thing, right? I may even buy some of the butterfly tote bags because that falls into that same design aesthetic. When we start to get into the fantasy stuff, the nature inspired, the aesthetic wolf, right? Some of these kinds of things, that is a very different style. And you're not likely to make a sale of that wolf t-shirt to the same person who's buying the William Morris pillow, even if they have an eclectic style, because that eccentricity, for lack of a better word, is very personal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and to be honest, the reason because again, I was trying to look at all sides of it, what the customer might be, what my passions are, where they intersect, and then how people are actually searching for stuff. Because again, same like if you don't have a validated product where people are actually buying it, if people aren't actually searching for a term, even though what comes back and you can see what is selling, right? So what was selling and what was searching, they found the same kind of thing. They were finding a way to get people to it, and people were buying. So I have proof that the different things are selling, right?
Well,
but how they were searching. So like room decor aesthetic would actually be more accurate. Except I don't want to just limit it to a room, but I think it's 7,000 or more searches a month on that, and then it's coming up with those kinds of things. That because the aesthetic is in cottagecore or boho, nature inspired, those kinds of things.
But so are you looking at searches or sales?
I'm looking at sales, and then I'm trying to backtrack. Well, how did they find the thing to get the sale?
Yeah, because I heard you say that they're getting views or they're getting searched for, which I don't love that number. I like looking at sales only. Like, I think the search is one thing, but search is so there's no one that knows the exact search number. There's just algorithms that try to let you know. Even Everbee, they'll tell you they're not going to be exact. So to me, the two things that you could look at is views, and then the views are reported by Etsy, and that'll be found in Everbee. So your views is one thing. And then the second thing is the sales, but the sales is really the first thing that I'm going to use as my validation piece.
Okay. Well, what if we then, since I do know the sales, I mean, I have in E-Rank that I use, I have, just because I don't have $1 million to spend on all these different sales, and Everbee was the last suggestion. So, I mean, I've already had the year on the others, but I do have validation on actual products being sold with actual aesthetics on them that match the aesthetic that I want to sell.
Okay.
Right? So I know that these, how would I then word the niche to fit that?
So I'd have to start with the product that you found that are selling. Like, I'd start there. Like, so what is
the blankets, the pillows, right?
Well, Scott, I think just used the word product when he meant design or style. Right. So he doesn't mean actually the pillow. He means the look and feel.
Yeah. What is the pillow, the design that has sold?
They're again with the niche stacking, they are a combination of, you could say, they're timeless.
Right. But can you give me one? Like, can you give us one and we can look at it? You know what I mean? Like, give me the listing that you found, that we will go ahead and then we can look at that. And that's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to go, okay, I'm creating one like this. This is the title that they're using. Here's the tags, just like we did in the last.
Well, you could do trying to think, if you search William Morris, that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah. So while I do that, I hear you saying a few things, and I want to just make sure we're on the same page. So, BZ, when you say aesthetic, what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm using the terms that people use for reference, and aesthetic is that it's a feeling that you are looking for. So you want a pillow with a certain aesthetic.
When somebody types in, and the example that I think you gave was room decor aesthetic has 3,800 searches. Does that mean something specific? Or are they just saying, I don't know, I want like the aesthetic that I'm looking for, and so that's what I'm going to type in?
Well, cottagecore, you talked about cottagecore, and those are aesthetics. I mean, that's,
Right.
you look at fashion magazines and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but how they came up with it, that's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I want to go back to that example for just a second, because the example that you used was, you said, yeah, there's like all these people and I found all these sales that I traced back to room decor aesthetic, right? Room decor aesthetic, if we search that in Etsy, comes up with literally everything, right? It was basically the equivalent of that Shrek painting that we saw a couple minutes ago, right? And so what we're looking for is how to classify this.
Okay.
Because that's what most people are actually going to be searching for. Even if they have an eclectic design style, they're going to say, I think for this space, I want a cottagecore thing, or I want like a nature-y print thing, right? And that's what they're going to type into Etsy. They're not necessarily going to type in like room decor aesthetic. And if they do, Etsy's going to show them a bunch of jumbled junk, which is not what we want to present to them as the store. So if we look at the William Morris stuff, right? This is all nature-inspired, cottage core, English cottage, right? Like this style, which we're now calling the BZ style, has a through line. If somebody likes one thing that William Morris did, they're going to buy other William Morris things. They're also going to buy other things that have a similar aesthetic, to use your word, right? They're going to buy things that have foxes, woods, mushrooms, elves, right? Like some of those kinds of things, garden gnomes. And that is really what we're looking for when we're talking about niching down. It feels to me, when we look at your shop, that you have two very different niches here. There are going to be crossovers between more of like the fantasy style and this like boho, cottagecore, all of the style. People are just losing their minds right now listening to me trying to describe this. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got
the
it.
Question. Okay.
Yes, it's that what you're trying to describe. That is what I want to, because the through line is still going to be the same for me. I know there's a demand for it. I just need to know what to call it. That's all.
Yeah. And that's why we're starting here. So Chris, can you run the Everbee extension on this page?
So this is the William Morris results.
Yep. I just want to see what we're getting for
results. It's nature inspired,
So those are looks like just printable vintage something, right? So just go to that one there, the throw. Nope, up a little bit. Right there. Well, yeah, do that one. Okay. And
well, here's a new one. Art Nouveau.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So yeah, so we're looking at this here. 937 sales in 12 months, 127 monthly sales, 97,492 views, reviews 149, favorited 2,704 times, and reviews per month 12. Review ratio 15.9, which is great, and availability or average visibility score is 100. What are the tags on this, Chris? Christmas decoration, custom pillow, decor pillows, throw pillow, decorative cushion cover, pillowcase, vintage pillow, strawberry
thief.
Yeah, that's one of his designs. And I just want to stop you right here, because this is, again, so I wanted to make sure not to repeat, in a classier way what I started with. So, and it had a t-shirt, shop. You don't want to have a pillow shop.
No. You wouldn't have to. Yeah. So you would take the pillow and then you would take the design and put it on other things. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be the t-shirt shop, you'd be.
But I mean, in my validation, I found this one that you're looking at and many others. And then I thought, okay, well, how are they doing it? Do some shops have more than just pillows, right, that are along that? And that's how I came up with the trajectory, which you can't not see in a public way yet, all the way through. Like I said, I let things slide and was focusing on what's going up new, started to put some new stuff up, have a lot of stuff almost ready to go, new, that all fits and the rest will go. But I didn't have the heart to jettison everything.
Yeah, but so, I mean, this here's a good starting point though. So I'm looking at this now and my brain wants to now build product line out of this and not do anything with the fantasy dog stuff or anything other than that would pertain to more either wall art, pillow.
Right there.
Decor.
Yeah, that one that you're on, Chris, he's one of the ones that's in my, Quinn and Quote's competitor listing, so I follow stuff his do. Yeah.
But look at, so I mean, obviously William Morris is the big one, but then you got farmhouse decor, cottage core, animal pillows, William Morris, designer pillow, chair pillow, botanical pillows. So like,
and he does very well in his shop. Plus, there's other vendors as well. But again, where it's more of a cohesive brand because it's about spending time intentionally. So they have puzzles, and it's gifting, but it's also how can you create a life where you're doing stuff. You're not just rushing here and there. So if you're doing a puzzle, and you can keep scrolling because it's interesting. The stuff at the top is not actually sold.
So so I understand what you're saying. Like you're trying to go through like the brand feel. Like
Right.
I get that, but we have to start with like search fulfilled with products and then more products to sell to the same customer.
Right.
That other stuff about the brand feel, I'm a fan of, but that's not really right now. It's not going to matter because that's not going to help us get traffic, right? That's not going, it might help convert later a little bit, but in the beginning, it's like search met with result, met with good product, sales, reviews, we get more sales, right? We get more traffic, we get more sales. And that's where we need to focus versus about like these different feels and these different like things that you're trying to stack. I don't think we need to stack right now. I think we can stick with what you have right here and just focus here for the next 90 days.
So if you can go back where you looked at, I don't know if it was Steady Hand or the one before, but you said right here, you were looking at the tags. So what would I then call, what's the niche that I would call that? Because I don't want it to just be William Morris. Right?
No, you wouldn't. He's going, I mean, if you're William Morris, it looks like you're cottage core as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's like, yes, you're going to use the name William Morris because it's a well-known name and people are searching for it. Yeah. But you're going to use forest. You're going to use cottage core. If you had a frog in it, it's going to be forest frog, right? It's going to be all of those.
But what I call the niche? That's what I'm asking.
The niche you're catering to in case right now, it's cottage core.
Okay.
Right. So you're creating for the cottage core, and in this style though, because cottage core is like, there's different kind of styles within the cottage core. It's just you're going to be focusing more on the forest and the nature and the frogs and the foxes and like the trees and all of that stuff. That's your lane in the cottage core.
Well, but where's the cottage part with the you go back one more, Chris, to the one you had before that. Go up a little bit.
I think it was the Komodo Moto, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just go down to the tags.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's things like it's the botanical things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a blend of those things.
Yeah.
But what is that? So I know how to do the tags and how to find that, but what's the niche? I guess I've got this, since two gentlemen keep saying, I want to know what to put in the slot for that.
I would say, Chris, I mean, you say what you think, but I mean cottage core, but it's cottage core, but the style is in the William Morris style, right? No. So it's kind of like like I said, like cottage core can be something different to people that are searching for the non-forest frog, fox, tree type style. But yours right now should be in that style. It doesn't mean that you're not going to offer the other stuff. It's just right now, that's what it is. And it goes with nature. It goes with feeling calm and all of the stuff that you want in the feeling of the brand.
So BZ, if you were looking for something in your shop, what would you be typing into Etsy?
I might put in cottage core. I would do timeless. I'm doing because it has to do with designs, timeless designs, or it might be not Victorian isn't quite there. Might be English countryside timeless designs.
So almost all of that, and again, all of the like fashion people are losing their minds. All of the real like interior designers are probably losing their minds with me right now. But that, to me, that all is cottagecore, right?
Perfect.
So there's like the English cottage, there's cottagecore, and then Scott, you were talking about like the difference with frogs and whatever. There's also country core, which is like a sub niche of that, and farm core, right? But if we're talking about timeless designs, you can still include that. But if you type timeless designs, that means something different to everybody.
Let's give her some action steps here. So we can kind of move through this. I think to me, it's very clear. Like we need to really understand who we're serving. And I know you want like this niche established. You're like, I want my flag and I want to stick it in the ground, but I don't know if I want it to be cottage core. That's kind of what I'm feeling, right? Like at this point, I would go in that direction, but I would go with the William Morris and I would go with that angle and that style. And then I would just build out products to fill that. Because if someone comes in the shop and they're like, oh, I want a William Morris thing. And then they go in there and they're like, oh, pillow. Cool. That would look good. Oh, that's a cool painting. We can put that in the other room. Right. So that's who I'd be serving. And I wouldn't worry about the other stuff that you're doing in the shop right now. I'd shelf it for right now. And I'd focus on those. And I'd get 3 to 5 of those products, just like I always give as the prescription, right? It's like 3 to 5 products that have good, solid demand. And then from there, I would launch those and I would launch them going through the process of being aggressive with your pricing and turning on Etsy ads, making sure everything is SEO optimized, right? So that's what I would do. And do you have products right now that you feel fit that criteria, or are you going to have to like kind of like come back to the drawing board again?
No, I have products that fit that criteria.
Perfect.
With high that have been validated with, I can screenshot, I know exactly
perfect
how many you're saying. Very similar to that first one, the Komodo that that Chris pulled up, of those numbers. Some of them have a couple products in the same shop. Some only have just a pillow or this, but I've strung them together.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying if I go with the cottagecore as the design aesthetic,
mm-hmm.
and then have the different kinds of products that it's printed on, right?
Yep.
And then build it out from there, then that will, okay.
Yes. The products are just the other things that people are either. So you're going to lead with one. So we just saw a pillow, right? That sells. You're going to start with a pillow, right? And then that design is going to also go on a blanket. It's going to also go on a canvas. It's also going to go on whatever else makes sense. A puzzle, right? It's going to go on those things because you've got it. Why not? Right. And so that way there. Now you might not have people that are searching for William Morris puzzle, right? Or cottagecore puzzle. They're not going to be searching for that, but you're going to create it because you already created the design on the product that does have demand, right? So that's how
puzzles actually. What I again in my research, that's one of the 3 to 5 products.
Okay,
huge sellers.
Okay,
like the second one you looked at, he's selling the steady hand. He's pillows and jigsaw puzzles are 2 of his very top.
Okay, so now here's the one thing I want to be very clear on though. So I'm saying do 3 to 5 products that have good demand. Okay. Now, if you say that the pillow has good demand and the puzzle has good demand, okay, that counts as 2. But if you have a product like the pillow that has good demand, that's 1. But if you put it on a product that doesn't have a lot of demand, but you might as well put it on there anyway, that doesn't count as one of your 3 to 5.
Right. No, what I'm saying, the list that I'm giving you are the ones where I can look at the same numbers.
Perfect.
And go, hey, check.
Right? Got it.
Perfect.
Scott will get jazzed about this.
All right, good. Yes, Scott will be jazzed about this.
I have those 5 products.
Okay, cool. So that's it. Like to me, that's the way that we can get really focused on. We know that they have products that are selling. We know that, there's good solid demand. And then the effort goes to building out that suite of products and staying there for a little bit in that lane. And even though we're saying cottage core, I mean, I hear a lot of people saying like, I want to sell in cottage core. And we actually did an Etsy audit on someone that was in cottage core, but it wasn't this style of cottage core. right? Like that's the interesting thing. There's different sides of it, and different things, different flavors are going to, just be better for certain people that are looking for.
So that's a good, do I need, if I'm going for, I guess maybe that would be my aversion, is because the cottagecore, if I differentiate on my optimization of the listings and stuff, then when they get there, like you back with, I can't remember her name, the last wonderful woman you had on there, but a goth, right? So cottagecore, and then they'll see, here's a whole cohesive style of this brand of cottagecore, this slaying, whatever.
So you could have cottage core
is different.
You could do cottage core with the William Morris style, and you can do cottage core in the goth style, right? Like if it's a thing, right? Like there's nothing wrong with
it. It's called dark cottage core.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there you go. Right. So that's what we're saying. And that's the kind of niche stacking that I would do right now, because it's very closely knitted together. Right.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I think that it's very clear now that we kind of went through this and we got through the part of like the feeling of the brand versus like what we're going to be focusing on as far as like what's going to get people in the door.
Right. And it's interesting because I think that it's certainly helpful for me, but I think it's a kind of a universally helpful thing, is that it can take one little piece that can keep our brain spinning and stuck, even though I've gone and done all your other steps. If I went and showed you the folders of, yes, this product and this, I've done all the validation. There actually is quite a large, and I'm like, wow, cool. When I found them on multiple different shops of different ages. So I've done all that, but not having that one little piece, because the look is still the same. I mean, nothing about the profitable look has changed. It's just the right slot to fit it in that it matched with what people were searching for. That's all.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, cool. So this sounds like something you can tackle.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So we'll probably be checking back in with you as well. So we'll want an update. And is there anything that you wanted to end with? Chris, you got any little bits of advice you want to give before we wrap up here officially?
No, I other than just don't be afraid to call it what it is, right? You were like, oh, that's dark cottage core, right? I never would have known that. But the cool thing with that is, even if somebody's not looking for dark cottage core, they're still gonna see your stuff when they're searching for cottage core. So you get to open their eyes to a whole new thing, versus using the much more generic term of like forest aesthetic or something like that, right? Or room aesthetic that can mean anything to anybody. By narrowing it down to something like that, we're able to more easily appeal to the people who are looking for it and help them find their style, even if they don't know what it is that they're looking for. They don't necessarily know that they're looking for dark cottage core or William Morris. But if we're able to show up for the term that they know, which is cottage core or like foresty pillow thing, right? Then we're able to get that design in front of them and go, this is for you. Especially for the eclectic people, you're like, this is what you're looking for. That's all that we're trying to do when we're saying niche down, find those keywords. So I think you're headed on the right track. I can't wait to see where you go.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start. And I was waiting for this. I'm stopped waiting, but I'm gonna do ads this weekend. I'm gonna get a few more things posted that are already ready to go, and then I'm gonna turn ads on.
Awesome. All right. Well, there you go. You got some work to do. Report back to us. And thanks so much for putting yourself out there and sitting in on the Etsy shop audit. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys.
So that's a wrap for this Etsy shop audit. But if you want to watch more, well, you can find some more right here. And if you do, well, I'll see you there.